Hey, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Nick here from Nick's Kicks and Comics and I never, ever get the pointing right, Kenny from Kenny Caps and Comics.
Right here.
There you go.
Dale from the Dale of Suspense, who's actually on a ton of T-shirts in my neighborhood today. And I'm sorry, Donnie. Donnie from Mastodon. I can't point. All right, so we're going to say hello to the chat first, and I'm going to leave Chip Getler for last because he pisses me off. Big Herm.
Freaking shadow.
Herminio. I won't do it. I'll leave that for Comic Man Andy.
Oh, Herminio's in here?
Yeah.
Station Big Herm. Freaky Louie, my man. Dale Suspense, I would say hello, but I'll be talking to you in a second. We'll pass over Chip again because, like I said, he's pissed me off. Remy Q, baby. That's a good-looking guy. And half the time, he's only wearing pants. So he's not wearing pants. So, and finally, last but not least, Mr. Chip Getler.
Hey, Chip.
What's up?
All right, guys. So we're here tonight to discuss our tales of comic book defeat, tales of comic book positivity and negativity in our collecting careers. And I know we all have some bad stories to tell. Hopefully not too many. And we have some good stories to tell. So I know Dale is probably itching to get a bratwurst. So we'll start with you, Mr. Dale. What I want to know first is how long you've been collecting. If that's been a consistent run, and if it hasn't, what brought you back?
All right. So I feel like I've been collecting forever, but not necessarily comic books. So I've been collecting like Hot Wheels cars, Lego, all sorts of stuff. Growing up in Germany, I collected a lot of like stickers and stuff too. So anything and everything that could be collected, I was trying to collect. But comic books, I would say early 90s when I was younger, a lot younger. It was my mom. She's the one who got me started into collecting. She was like, hey, let's check out these basketball cards and stuff. I was real big into basketball and football cards, and then Desert Storm cards and all sorts of stuff. Just if it could be collected, I was collecting.
I forgot about Desert Storm cards.
Yeah, those are awesome. They're super cool.
God.
Such a historic thing, right? But I started really collecting like the X-Men, the one that they printed like millions of copies of, right? That everybody has. And then I stopped for I'd say like in the mid 90s, and then started back up about 6 or 7 years ago, and haven't stopped since. Oh, I can't.
You're muted, Nick.
Yeah, it's tough to hear when you're on mute. Do you remember the first? I told you guys backstage, I'm not that good at running my own show. Do you remember what that first book was 6 or 7 years ago?
X-Men first book 6 or 7 years ago. Coming back, it was it was I think World War Hulk or something like that. It was but it was the $1 issue. Because I walked into the comic book store, I was like, oh my gosh, $5.99, $6.99, $4.99. What happened to like the $1.25 and all that sort of stuff? So I picked up some of the True Believer. Yeah, no kidding. Some of the True Believer type comics, and then it migrated to other things. But
so being that I'm here in Dallas, you a big Dirk Nowitzki fan?
What's that?
Are you a big Dirk Nowitzki fan?
Who is that? I don't know.
Okay. All right, big basketball guy here in Dallas.
Yeah. Oh, no, not Dirk. No. I was a big Michael Jordan fan and Pippen fan.
Hell yeah.
Who said hell yeah?
Wasn't me.
That was me. Everybody knows who Jordan and Pippen were. Like I don't even like watch basketball. It's too much running involved. I would never run unless unless someone said like, "Hey, free tacos," then I'll run. But
So
like everybody knows who Jordan and Pippen were.
as a Knicks fan,
Pippen.
thank you. This was our show. It was great to have you guys on, and we'll talk to you later.
I'm not saying I like them. I'm just saying like everyone they're in the zeitgeist. I mean, like everyone knows who they are.
Yeah. No, I've that guy's made me suffer many times over the years. But yeah, you're right.
Though.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm already in negatives.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. How about you, Mr. Kenny? What's your
story? I started collecting when I was a kid. Let's say like 4 or 5. I don't really remember. You know, it's like the first time that when your system boots online, you don't really know like your first memory. You know, and so I think my first comic book was either a Conan comic book or a G.I. Joe comic book. I'm not sure, but I remember looking at those. Like I have these distinct memories, and I remember like with the Conan comic book, I remember my dad snatching away like, oh my God, don't read that because there was like boobs and stuff. But the G.I. Joe, like I remember that getting snatched away from me because I was talking about how pretty the women were in it. So comic books are always being taken from me. Like that's my curse. And so like I collected and I had some of the parents at church and stuff that would give me like their old kids comic books and stuff. So because this is a pivotal moment in my brain as far as comic book collecting, the death of Superman. By that time, I'd already amassed like 100 comic books. That's like nothing to brag about. It's just that there's a lot of free comic books that came my way, a lot of garbage, you know? And so like the oldest books from maybe 77, nothing big, but you know, a little bit like Superman, like 225-ish, Neil Adams stuff, like good Neil Adams work. And because I've always loved Superman. Well, as a little kid. As I got older, my taste changed. But when I really started actively seeking comic books, that was the death of Superman. That's when because like our Walmart had like a little spin rack, and there was only like 4 people in my whole town that collected. And so like we would fight over those comic books, and they were really hard to get because there was one kid that had a little bit more money, and so he'd always buy all the good stuff. So I collected, and then like I'd say, well, then 93, 94. This is like Marvel. I mean, there was just so much. The 90s were just a horrible time to collect. If it wasn't for the glut of the industry, polybags and like all these alternate covers and stuff, it was just not cool to collect comic books. And so I just stopped collecting, you know, I just put them aside. I was more focused on other stuff, namely like music, because I'd always loved music, you know, that was a big part of my life. Like my parents were really big into music. My dad loved like Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith. My mom like Elton John and stuff. And so and Queen, and I just grew up with that. So I got really big into music in high school. And I just stopped collecting forever. So I think the first time I contemplated getting back into comic books was like when Iron Man came out in 2008. Now, like I watched Batman in 89 when I was 9. Went to Selma. I watched that. We had to drive an hour to Selma to watch Batman. But then, like, you know, the comic book movies after that just went downhill. Like, there was just so many bad Batman movies, and I've heard many people defend those. And look at the 90s Captain America movie, the Fantastic Four movie that didn't come to fruition. Then you had, like, so many other movies, like Daredevil and, like, even Thomas Jane's Punisher. They're just not really good comic book movies. Like, it's the true fan. As a true fan, I can watch those and laugh about them, but it's hard to watch. So when Iron Man came out, like that was like, holy crap, you know, like this is a good movie. I just so happened to be home around the same time. My mom is like, can you please take these comic books that have been in the attic for like 20 years, take them back home or throw them away? So I brought them home. I started fending through them. And then I started like trying to like fill in parts of that collection, you know? And that's what got me back into it. So my dark ages were like about a 20-year period where I just did not collect.
So you've amassed that whole wall in 8 years?
No. So Iron Man came out in 2008. No, it's been about 10 or 11 years. Yeah. And none of these
That's
are
impressive.
I did not own any of these as a kid. These are keys, I do have two on this wall. They're below deck, so to speak, and way over that way. But it's the first appearance, the first full appearance of War Machine, Iron Man 282. That was mine. I had that, and then I've told this to Gary, and I know Gary's in the chat. It's Secret Wars #7, and that's when Julia Carpenter becomes Spider-Woman. Those were my comic books I had slabbed, but all the rest I bought. And that story is a completely different story. I don't know if you want to hear that now, or if you'd rather talk to Don about how he got into collecting.
Yeah, we'll talk to Don, because I definitely want to hear that story.
Yeah, I don't want to be a camera hog.
I can't see that being a 2-sentence thing, So we'll get to you, Mr. Donnie. Thank you very much for sharing, and we'll hear from Mr. Donnie. Donnie, let's hear about your collecting career.
I first started around 92. I was 10 years old. And what drew me into it was the X-Men cartoon, the Batman cartoon. I didn't really do, as far as DC, I didn't read any DC, even though I loved the Batman cartoon. But the Marvel stuff was what drew me in. Our local Ames, I don't know if you're familiar with an Ames department store, but they had those packs, like four and a thing, and I got X-Force was in it. So my first book that I ever read was X-Force #5, and I've been told by Fabian Necieza that he hated the story. I'm like, but dude, you wrote it.
Yeah, to hear that from him, and then to get all the Liefeld love and the pouches and the big guns and the shoulder pads. It's a pretty great time to come into comics.
Yeah, and I fed on it. I fed on that art and the later art. But I kept continuing to collect for a few years. One night, my parents picked me up from, I can't remember if it was a dance or if it was football practice. I don't remember what, but they used to go to auctions every Tuesday night. Well, they picked me up. They said, "Hey, we got something for you," and it was a box full of Weird War Tale books and Sergeant Fury books, and I still have every one of them.
Wow.
I just about every, I may have given away a few of the books that I had when I was a kid. In fact, a couple of those went to New Zealand, but I still have all those, and that's kind of the reason that I collect. I'm one book away from finishing my Weird War Tales run, which I didn't think I'd ever do that, but anyway, through various things, football, and in college sports, I guess kind of fell out of it, but I was still in it. I had that one single box. I didn't have many comic books, but it was just one box, and that box went with me every time I moved. And I moved 4 or 5 times. I got into the Marvel Essential books. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah, I've got a few here actually.
So I kept reading through that, reading books, but I didn't pick up onto newer books until about 2016. Yeah, 2016. And it was this book that made me start collecting again. It's part of a part of a 6-issue series. Just phenomenal.
That's Vertigo, right?
Wow. What's that?
Vertigo?
Yeah, Vertigo. Just a wild freaking ride. I mean, if you can seek it out, I definitely would. Just a fun read. The other thing was before that was The Surrogates. And I got the first 2 issues of that Jacked off of it's called Baldigal Comics. And I don't even know if it's around anymore, but it was an online distributor, like a shop. And they stopped posting the new issues. So I was like, what the hell? So I went up and found my local comic shop in South Williamsport, just down the road. And I was like, oh, wow. Because that was the first time I'd ever been in a comic shop. And I went in and started looking around, and I found like the rest of the issues of that arc. And I was like, sweet. And I was just in my glory. So that was
trying to collect runs from the very beginning then, huh?
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's weird for me. It's like getting back in. X-Men was my thing. So before I stopped collecting, this must have been 2012, 2013 was the last time. I had a full run from 1 through 441. And that was a good majority of the reason why I started to sell all that stuff. I had hoped that my son, who's 10 now, would be into comics, and it just didn't look like it. So the kick in the nuts, and I'll always say this, is that nowadays he'll want to come weekly with me to the comic store. So when he gets older and he starts to understand, I'll be like, kid, you don't even understand what you could have had. But
that's how it is, though.
Yeah. Right. Well, thanks for sharing your origin stories. We'll catch up with the chat, and then we'll start getting into our positive, negative stuff. I have highlighted here my man Vince McLean, the Comic Machine, who I've had the fantastic pleasure of meeting. He's here in North Texas, and we've done one hunt so far, and I hope to catch a few more with him. Great guy to go shopping with. So, as you mentioned, the patron saint of the comic book community, Mr. Gary B, the casual comic guy.
What's up, Gary?
And I think, listen, I think each one of you guys, especially, these two, would love to talk to Scott. I don't know if you've ever caught up with Scott. Scott loves gold. He doesn't even collect modern. He's like, my oldest book is like 1982. So he's got fantastic stuff. And I think with he could have a wall to rival yours, Kenny.
Awesome. I'd love to see that. Yeah.
He showed some great stuff there. And Donnie, he's got weird, I wouldn't say weird, just not mainstream stuff. He's got a giant size X-Men today, and he was like, I haven't even read it. I'm like, how do you have that book and not know what's in those pages? What's in those pages? But a great community that we have, and just one of those great guys to talk to. All right, so while we're going with positives, we'll catch up with you, Mr. Dale. Do you have a positive tale that sticks out in your head that you want to share?
Positive tale. Kind of a sad but positive. I inherited a Lone Ranger number 44 from 1952. I'd say that's probably my oldest book, and it may not have any sort of like monetary value, but it has a lot of sentimental value. So that was for my grandpa. That's what he had. So that was one of the books that really sparked my interest in collecting. But yeah, I still have that book, and it's absolutely going absolutely nowhere. So, but
nice. Do you have it graded?
No, not yet. I just recently got into the whole graded book thing. I had a graded book last year, towards the beginning of last year, and I was like, wow, this looks really nice, and the display is so nice, and then I ended up getting a CGC account, and then it's been like it's kind of an exciting thing. I'm still waiting on some magazine-sized books right now, and they've been there since March 12th. But
to make you not feel better, I've had some there magazine size since February. So
okay.
Yeah. It's cool. It's like the only way I think to protect your comics. I mean, it's a great encapsulation tool, but the disappointment that comes along with the wait times could be very, very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Right. It's a good thing that my life doesn't depend on it, that I have to make the money to sell it or something. If that was the case, I'd be going with CB stuff.
I've gotten packages in the mail. It's like, what in the hell is this? It's like CGC. It's been so long. I don't remember having anything at CGC. It's like, oh yeah,
See, and again, like I wish I could be like you, because honestly, I check 4 or 5 times a day. Right now, I have
every day.
No, that's like watching a pot waiting for it to boil. Like you can't do that.
I can't tell you that I get excited because there's been a little bit of movement these past couple of days. And I'm like, yes. So
I don't know what that's like.
You don't know what that's like. So no graded books for you then, Donnie, huh?
I have graded books, but I have never sent any in.
Yeah. All right. So while we're talking to you, Mr. Donnie, how about you? What kind of positive story sticks out in your head? Aside from knowing me, that is.
It's all positive. I guess just finding a cache of books that's on your list. That I love that. It's not really a story, but it's experiences that I've come across. Especially like going to Baltimore and digging through all those boxes. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's my con.
So goddamn fun.
You ever go to Awesome-con in DC?
No, I never have.
Right.
I heard it's good.
It's awesome.
Well, speaks for itself then, right?
Yeah, you know what? I like the possibility before walking into a store, that especially ones that you've never been to before, just you kind of get your palms a little sweaty, like what am I going to find? You hope you have the knowledge up here to realize what you're looking at. When I go to my LCS, the owner says he has probably 70 or 80 long boxes he hasn't cataloged yet. So I purposely go there on like quiet days, and he'll let me dig in the closet. And it's a good and a bad thing, because I'll come across stuff first. And then it's a bad thing because, I'll come across stuff first. And like I said, my pull list is like that. And I find a major book, and I'm like, I can't really pass it up, so.
Yeah.
Tough thing. All right. Thanks for sharing, Mr. Donnie. How about you, Mr. Kenny?
Positive stories, right? Let's see.
Oh, whatever you want. If one sticks out.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, the way I got into slab comic books, right? So, everything I owned up until like this certain point, they were all raw comic books. And people have heard this story before, but what happened was my grandfather-in-law passed away. So my father-in-law got some money in an inheritance. He's really big in investments and stuff. And he's like, if you had money to invest, what would you invest in? I'm like, well, it's comic books. I've been watching the prices just skyrocket after Iron Man came out. Like, I mean, seriously, like when I was a kid, like you could get Iron Man #1 anywhere for like $1. And like right now, like Iron Man #1, that's like it's still a hot book. It's still like incredibly expensive. And so over the last 10 years, these books have just exploded in price. So he's like, okay, I can cut you a check for a certain amount. It's tax free. It's a gift, right? Invest it. So the first thing I did was bought an AF-15. This one right here, if you can see it a little bit more. That's my fourth AF-15 because when I started, I would buy an AF-15 and I would just resell it. So my first one, I bought it for $8,000 off of eBay. I took it to Baltimore Comic-Con. I sold it a month later for $9,000. All right. So I took that money and then I just bought another AF-15. And I just kept rolling it over and over again. And I would make a little bit of money every time. I lost money one time. I bought a CBCS AF-15 and I lost about $1,000 on that one. So since then, I've only bought CGC. So, I mean, we all have to make mistakes, you know, like you don't grow unless you make mistakes and fail. So, that's what would happen. I would buy comic books from like Heritage Auction has a lot of great auctions. I would buy like auction only, not buy now like on eBay, auctions. And I would get some good comic books and I would flip them. I'd take that extra money and then buy another copy that's same grade and everything. Then I had one for myself plus a little extra money. And that's how I built this collection. And then I paid off my father-in-law, you know, so then I took the money, the seed money that he gave me, and it became this. And so it's been a little bit of work, but it's been so much fun, you know, because I started off, I wanted the first appearances of the people in the MCU. I wanted the big guys like Iron Man and Thor, and I'll never get a first appearance of Captain America, but I got a Silver Age appearance, you know, and so that's how that all started. But it all started from that first purchase of that AF-15. And the point of this is that I sold it to this guy at Baltimore, Vincent Zerzolo. He owns Comic Connect. He owns Metropolis Comics in New York City. And so I didn't even know who he was at the time, you know. So like I sell it to this guy and he writes me a check, just zip. And I remember looking at this guy that was in the booth and like, how am I supposed to trust you? You just wrote me a check. And he's like, dude, that's Vincent Zerzolo. He's the richest guy in the whole like Baltimore Comic-Con. And you know, he's like, you're good for it. So it was like a couple months later, I see him on like the PBS documentary, like Vincent Zerzolo. He walks in and he's like, these are my Action Comics #1. He opens a safe. He's got like 5 Action Comics #1. He's like, you can buy Action Comics #1 for like 10 cents back in 1938. Isn't that great? I'm so rich. Closes the safe and spins the lock and walks away. And I was like, holy crap. I met Vincent Zerzolo and he bought one of my AF-15s. So it's been pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
Can you give me a second? Just give me a second to catch up. Hold on.
Okay, man.
I'm still stuck on 4 AF-15s. That's what I'm
Right.
Well, again, hey, Dank, you have to understand that like the first few that I bought, they were not technically mine. Look at it just like if you're in business. I know you talk about your corporate overlords, so you know something about business. You know, they were just investments to begin with. And as the investments paid off a little bit, I was able to put some away for my retirement. So what sucks about collecting, you have purists. How dare you slab a comic book? Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have your slab versus raw collectors. Well, within those communities, you have your art lovers, you have your story lovers. All right. I never really cared about the story so much. The story was cool, but I'm an artist. I draw. Check me out on Lame Frame.
Hey, no shameless plugs. No shameless.
Yeah, but I love art. And so like the covers were always my favorite thing. I love the covers, right?
Yeah.
And so like, and as a historian, I'm all about preservation. So what my wall here is it's preserving good art, you know? And I love that. So yes, I have built an amazing collection, but I had to work really hard for it. And I also put comic books back out into the community. And then, you know, I made other people happy. So I'm at peace with that. And I know that I just again, I'll stop there. I can ramble all night unless I'm reined in.
So if you really, really want to be at peace, and what's up, Mr. Dan Comics? He'll talk about peace. He'll help you. He'll ease you into this decision. Okay. Just pick up another AF-15, send that one to me, and you'll see my smile will be perpetual. It'll be on there forever. Sure.
Yeah,
all right, there it is. You'll make me happy. That's all.
Well, the reason why this was my fourth and final one is it got to be too hard to get them.
Number 5 is the final one.
No,
I like how you threw in final.
It just got to be, and so like, it's everywhere. If you watch like Reggie Collects, even it's been talked about in the hot seat with Gary and Jimmy and Jason. Like, this is not the time to buy. Yes, like get your stuff from your local comic, but as far as keys, this is not the time to buy. This is a seller's market. So if you're interested in that, I would put money on this and that, and eventually the bottom's going to drop out, and then you will be able to maybe get one. Some keys are never going to go down in value. Like, some are just going to appreciate no matter what. But like
AF-15.
Who knows? You just gotta. It's a whole market thing. You just gotta watch it. And
Dale's right. See, now is not the time. Now is not the time to buy. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah, I haven't bought a comic book in a while.
Now is the time to beg somebody who has an AF-15 for that AF-15.
It's funny, Brandon from Comic Kings. He wanted my Daredevil, and I was like, man, maybe one day.
I think Brendan's still young, so I think if that Daredevil's got to go to anybody, it's got to be Rod, right? Got to be Rod. All right, cool, man. Thank you very much for sharing. Thanks you for making me jealous. And like I said, if you want to shoot that address, like I said, I grew up in Brooklyn, so I kind of know how to work my way
on Instagram.
All right, we'll go into the negative aspect. And Don, you said that you had a lot of positive stuff. Do you have anything negative to let us know about?
Negative stories, not necessarily experiences, because it happened twice. The one I had never been to, but it was a really local comic shop to me, had closed. This was a victim of the 90s implosion. And I only heard the story, within the last couple years. When they closed, they were throwing books in the dumpster. They were just throwing them out. And the guy that told me the story was in the dumpster one night digging through books, and he said there was a lot of good stuff in there. And the people that had the store came out of the store and just started tearing them apart. And he said, "Look, I'll pay for these. Why are you throwing them away? It's like you're throwing them in the dumpster."
Should be fair game.
Yeah, not according to them. That's still our property, they said. So he just set them down and just walked away from it. He said he was sick to his stomach. The other story was the shop that I visited when I got back into. They were open for a couple years, and they I don't exactly know what happened. The excuse was that the owner of the building decided to sell, and they were faced with some options to try to move or whatever. And this was where the whole diamond distribution issues came into play, where they canceled their address, so they didn't have a physical address. So Diamond refused to send the books. So everybody that had a pull list, you were SOL. So it took me quite a while to decide to start another pull list at the other shop in town. And I didn't want to do it. And so when I did it, I decided, I'll just 5 books. That's it. And if there's anything that catches my eye, I'll grab that as well. But other than that.
So that's a hard and fast rule, 5 at all times, no matter what?
Yep.
So how do you decide what makes it? It's just what you enjoy reading?
Whatever catches my eye, it's usually indie books.
Yeah.
I'm sort of annoyed and irritated with the big 2. I haven't, other than some of the Black Label stuff, I haven't bought any DC in probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
So I have to say, and I mean, I've grown up with DC. I've grown up with both, right? Lately, I haven't been able to read DC since I got back in, but these past 6 weeks or so, excellent stuff coming from DC. And like you say, especially Black Label, because if you haven't read it yet, Nice House on the Lake is excellent. Excellent. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely catch up. Well, maybe you can make an exception by 6.
Maybe.
But cool. And I wish I had your kind of willpower, like I said, to only have 5 at a time. It seems like I can go like this and just grab 5, and then I'll still have my.
Well, remember how I mentioned that I had that singular box?
I thought that was a window.
And I have gotten rid of a lot of books.
It's like
that is a window. That's a window into his wallet. That's weird.
A window into my wallet. Yeah. In fact, our yard sale, I have 2 long boxes sitting out here on the table that I'm just gonna 50 cents a piece.
Well, after the show, let me dig through.
Okay.
All right. How about you, Mr. Dale? You have a negative story? You have anything not so nice to tell us?
Not really. Ever since I started collecting back in, it just, especially on YouTube and Instagram, people are just so damn nice. But the only bad thing maybe would be that I stopped collecting for almost 20 years. If I would have just kept on going, then I would have amassed quite a good collection of comics.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would have had New Mutants 98 before it.
Struggle is real, man.
Yeah, for sure. I probably would have had my Tales of Suspense 39, which I don't have now. Oh, that's a story. Holy crap. So one time my LCS had Tales of Suspense on the wall, and 39, hence the name Dale of Suspense, right? But I got to hold it, and they wanted $900 for it, and it was a detached cover, and it looked just clean as all get up. But I didn't have $900, so I was like, man. And then not too long after that, it was selling for, I don't know, thousands of dollars online. So that's probably a bad story.
Yeah, but I mean, at least you got to hold it.
Right, yeah. But I don't have a picture, but it is true. I'm being truthful.
Never got to hold an AF-15, Kenny.
Yeah. Me neither, Kenny.
All right, buddy. Look, and that's my thing, one of these days, that's why I started my whole YouTube channel. I wanted to talk about these. I have these, and I don't get to talk about this stuff with anybody. My wife doesn't care. She likes the fact that they're worth something and they're liquid, right? But she doesn't care, And I want to talk about this stuff with people. I want eventually, when we're all okay to come into closed spaces and stuff, we're still wearing masks. I've got 2 young kids that aren't vaccinated. My 1-year-old doesn't even wear a mask. So, but one day, I would love people to see these. So actually, for free, yeah, here, touch it. Hold the AF-15. Hold the Tales of Suspense 39. Right here, Hold the Journey in the Mystery 83. hold number 1. Hold Hank Pym number 1. Fantastic Four number 1. Because I've met so many awesome people. Sure, go ahead, take a picture with it. I'd love for you to. I want to talk about this stuff. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to say also that I've been double vaccinated, so I don't need to wear a mask. So I'll be right over.
Yeah.
Me
and my wife, right? Yeah, we've been vaccinated, but
Yeah, you know what? My wife is the same way. She could care less. Like I tell her that I could sell all these books and make money. That's having the hobby fund itself, I think, is one of the biggest things. And then I can collect all the stuff that I want. You know what I mean? And it's my wife is just all about where's the money. The only reason this show exists is because she's not home and I can do what I want. But I mean, not everybody understands. And I think that's what this community is so giving about, is that we've all been stuck in that corner at one point or another where people just don't accept it, you know, and we found this big, huge group of people that love it and have been there. Yeah. So that's the whole thing. So, all right,
it's
Kenny, did I hear
plus of 2020?
All right, I'm responding to the chat.
Yeah, see, I'm not doing it.
But yes, Dank, you are right. Yes.
Frisky business, frisky bigness. Did I ask you something negative, Kenny? I mean,
no, it's just I'm responding to Dank. He's in the chat. Just give me 1 second.
Oh, anyway. And we'll take time, Mr. Jerry.
Yeah. So I've sent out AOKs to a very few number of people, and so Dank's like, you need to get a PO box, you know. But I'm saying, like, I have a good security system and guns. If you don't know my gun collection, check out my video on my gun collection. I have a 50 caliber. I can't ever say that, Springfield rifle. So anyway, but yes, thank you, Dank, and you're right. Bad comic book collecting stories. I only really have one. Like, I have to agree with Dell in the thing that, like, I really wish that I didn't stop collecting them, but like there were just so many other important things. But like, look at YouTube and right, this isn't about subscribers. It's about meeting people and being involved in an awesome community. But subscribers are nice, right? But the most successful people that are on YouTube, these are the people that never stop collecting. They've collected their whole lives. They didn't care. They didn't give a crap. They unabashedly just kept collecting. But, you know, and maybe these are the people that were invested in the stories. And again, like we've talked about that, you know, maybe that's the difference between art and the stories. I don't know. But yeah, I wish I coulda, shoulda, woulda, you know. My only bad story is I don't CGC a lot myself. Yes, I've said that I forget about boxes that come in. It's just because it just takes so long. But the majority of these have already been slabbed when I buy them, because the first 2 comic books I got when I got AF-15. The second one I got was a Journey into Mystery 83, and then that one I took it. I got it raw, sent it to CGC. It came back restored, and so you know. Purple labels are fine for Golden Age comic books because so many of that older stuff, you know, like that's what they thought you were supposed to do. Color touches were fine. Check out Jerry the Jitterbug stuff. Like, he's got Japanese rice paper. I mean, like, this used to be like what people thought this is what you're supposed to do as far as restoring comic books. But for Silver Age and Bronze Age, like, the purple label of death is just not good. So I wound up selling that. I lost like maybe $500 or $600 just selling that because of the purple label of death. So from that, it was just like, all right, I'm not going to spend this much money on eBay. This was a trusted comic book source. I won't mention their name because that's not cool of them. It's a major comic book place in Texas. Starts with an M. Anyway,
this guy just did a video today.
So anyway, but yes, I don't really have that many keys left to get. The only keys I don't have are like way out of my price range. And so, but yeah, just you have to be aware of what you're getting into. You know, there are horror stories around every corner. And so after that, it was like, yeah, if I'm gonna buy a key, it's gonna be slabbed.
Yeah, and I've been to what I suspect your place is. I don't think they actually have a physical store anymore. I was at one of the shops, so to speak, around here. I find them too expensive anyway, but You got to get what you want where you can, I guess. So
Yeah.
All right. So does anybody? I'll leave.
Coming in, he's eating ribs and brats, and then he's coming back in and.
You son of a bitch!
I'm glad I ate her.
He's crazy.
I'm glad I ate her. Is it good?
It's like 6:45 right now. It's delicious. See?
Hi. Now, do you eat it raw or is it not raw? But do you put anything on top? Is there any kind of sauce?
This is a bratwurst with ketchup and curry powder on it, and it's super delicious. It's very common in Germany, so yeah, it's pretty good. You gotta try it.
Yeah, actually, here in Texas, there are pretty big pockets of Polish. There's a Polish community and German communities, and they actually have a fast food German place where my wife is from, and I forget the name of it.
Nice.
But and I haven't eaten there yet. But
yeah, what's crazy about Texas and like as far as like barbecue, Texas is like strictly beef, and barbecue is such a regional thing. And like the Carolinas have their pork, but like where I'm from in Alabama, it's this crazy mixture where it's okay to have beef barbecue or pork barbecue. So it's nuts. Like I love both of them, but both different cultures have their distinct kind of flavors.
Yeah, here it's a pretty big thing to the fact where people's barbecues, people's smokers are actually shaped like old cowboy revolver guns. So it's that deep. It's that crazy.
Oh
so speaking of which, Donnie, do you have Scrapple where you're at?
Yes.
Scrapple is like a mixture of, is it ham? I forget. It's been so long since I've been in Pennsylvania, but that was like the one regional food I can remember as Dale pops in and out of that good meal. Yeah. All right. So while Dale's away, do you guys have anything positive and negative you want to share before we head out?
Oh God, I could talk all day, dude.
I thought of one. I held a coverless copy of Batman 1 time.
Oh, that's cool. First appearance of Joker and Catwoman.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to give this back to you before something happens to it.
Yeah, see, I can never do that. I have sweaty hands. So when I take books out to grade, I always have gloves handy because when I'm reading, like I say, it's a curse for me. So I'm always doing that stuff when I'm checking books out.
Is it because you work at Subway?
How do you think that Dale lives very close to me? He's not eating Wiener Schnitzel and that other stuff. He's got, the Turkey Club on Italian wheat and herbs. So
there you go. Sounds good. Oil and vinegar, please. Can you toast my bread?
Toast. You want to toast? I always go for the foot-long meatball. That's my thing.
That's the only bread they need to have, as far as I'm concerned.
The Italian herbs and cheese. Yeah, I agree. I don't need that healthy crap. Yeah, you know what? There's an LCS that just opened to me, and I haven't been close to any of the books that Kenny's got on his wall. So they opened up an LCS by me, and they've got Wonder Woman #1, an ASM #1, a few other just beautiful books that I've never, ever seen before. And I kind of equate it, for me as a comic book collector since I was 8 or 9 years old, for me, it's like walking out into your favorite baseball team stadium for the first time. Yeah. I mean, I've been to Yankee Stadium dozens and dozens of times, but the first time I ever go there a season, it's just like it fills me with awe. You know what I mean? I would imagine if I'm ever fortunate enough to be in Virginia, that when I'm walking, is it your basement, Kenny?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll be like, but all right, how about you other guys? Anything positive or negative, Dale, Kenny, that you guys want to say before we head out?
I'm not going first.
Positive? Like what do you mean positive?
Whatever you feel. If you've had a bad experience, good experience, do you hope maybe one day to pass on your love of books to your son?
So, yeah, he's a big Spider-Man fan.
Nice.
My boy too.
And what got him hooked was that Miles Morales movie.
Yeah, me too.
Spider-Verse. Just love that movie. He loves that movie. Just the whole family loves it. Positive for sure. I think my wife has come around to actually liking comic books too, because she's been buying me stuff. So,
that's huge.
It is. So she sees how the love I have for the comics and the artwork, and my kids, they all love comics. Nerd One, the one that's behind me with my second plate of food, she loves Star Wars comics, and she just recently got her first CGC book.
I like Spider-Man toys.
Oh, you like Spider-Man toys, yeah. And so I feel like prior to me, there wasn't anybody else that collected comics in the family. So I'm passing that love down to my kids, and we'll have several generations, hopefully, of comic collectors.
Nice. It's always good. I mean, previous coworker of mine always says once you have kids, you kind of live forever. And I think that what you're passing on to them, they'll pass on for generations too. And that, honestly, I can't think of a more positive story. So that's awesome.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Kenny.
Thank you.
Yeah, and similarly, my son he's 4. He'll be 5 next month. And Johnny, he loves Miles Morales. Like, that's his Spider-Man. And so that's the newest comic book that I have. I got that Ultimate Fallout #4 just for him, because like he loves Spider-Man so much. And Flash, he just loves to run around like, I'm super fast. I'm like, yeah. My daughter loves Gwen Stacy, so it's really cool that they're getting into this. Like, they watch all these cartoons with these same great characters, and I love that. And I just love to sit and like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. They've messed it up. I'm just glad you're like into superheroes, we at least agree with like Teen Titans Go. That's
love
like,
that show.
Yeah, it's our favorite cartoon together, and I just love how they like, it's so meta, like they just talk about the craziest stuff. But yeah, that's like the best thing about being a dad, is to like pass down all the crazy stuff that we're interested in. It's like, yes, like it's okay to like this stuff now. It was such a closeted thing in the 90s and the 80s, so. Who knows what's going to happen in the next decade, honestly. But I hope that they take that love of superheroes and just venture out with it. My daughter loves art. Recently, TM and Herm and Fable did an interview with Trish Forstner, and my daughter sat down and watched the whole interview. She's 7, and she's like, I want to talk to her, and I'm like, Miss Trish may talk to you. I don't know, like. So it's so fun. Just
yeah.
And honestly, these kids, and you guys are younger. I'm about 10 years older than all of you.
What?
I'll be 48 in July. You're
not 10 years older than me, that's for sure.
41.
All right. Well,
I'll be 43.
Still older. I mean,
I'll be 39 in July.
Jesus. Really? I didn't. Okay.
But and especially I started collecting with like my introduction to comics, aside from my uncle giving me like DC books from the 60s. My first love was John Byrne and Chris Claremont's X-Men.
Yeah.
So for me, even today it still holds up. But to come in and start collecting in the 90s, when you really had, it was more about what was on the cover, like if it glowed or if there was some stupid plastic jewel in the head, or hey, these guys just broke off. That was what it was about. You had stories, Dark Knight, Infinity Gauntlet. Those were very rare back then, and to have you guys collecting then, to still have love for it now is a little odd to me, because it was such a terrible time, for comics.
Yeah.
But I think as the kids grow up, it'll ebb and flow as everything does.
Yeah.
But there'll still be pieces of what each of us passes on. And hopefully the next time this comes around, it'll be a lot better for what we passed on and what they interpret it to be. So,
well, we learn about it depending on which era we are in as well. Just like I've heard the same thing that you just said. I heard from Hialeah Comic Bro, because he's a couple years older than you, but he's said the same thing when the 90s came up. He was like, "This, I'm out. I'm done."
And having learned comics then, nobody wanted a newsstand UPC symbol. I mean, as a collector, it makes perfect sense. But back then, I didn't want that ugly crap on my comic.
No.
I loved it.
Ruins the art.
I loved it.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of my G.I. Joe from Marvel's Volume 1, I'll have the UPC on there because I got them on spinner racks.
That doesn't have a UPC on it.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I appreciate that art more now. Is that a Steranko cover?
Yeah.
That looks like Steranko, yep.
I love Steranko. Steranko hit on my wife.
Did he?
Sure did.
He did.
He hits on everybody's wife.
That dude
how old is he
like
now?
4'5", and Jim Steranko's like, hey, he's walking up to my wife. He's like, hey, I run like 4 miles every day. How much does your husband run? And she's like, none. He's like, all right. He just scampers off.
Damn,
it's like Jim Steranko.
You draw a few good Nick Fury covers, you think you're entitled,
Yeah. when I met him, the guy in front of me had this portfolio book, and he opened it up, and somebody else contributed had signed it as well, and he goes, "Who wrote all over my book?"
Well, it was a different time back then too. I mean, a lot of people stole a lot of stuff from other people, so they'd be bitter about it too, All right, so we'll go clockwise around. Mr. Kenny, what do you got going on in your channel?
All right. Well, let's see. I discuss first appearances, evolutions, and top 10s. I also do like instructionals and unboxings, and now I'm doing like monthly giveaways. So be sure to check out Friday Fun. That's every Friday at 8 a.m. where you get the chance to name that song. And then, of course, you can always see me every Saturday night at 6:30. And that's when I drop my latest videos. And I'll be there in the live chat, just waiting to answer your question. Naturally, that's all in Caps on Comics. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
God damn, that's an outro.
Nice.
That was awesome.
I need practice. Hey, also, look, you see my fingers are crossed? Are you taking Bearded's job as the judge on Lame of Frame?
No. Look, he was working, and I said, hey, Rod, Bearded's working. Can I step in? And he's like, yeah, sure, man. I would never take Bearded's job. No,
you know what the funny thing is now your internet looks just like his.
Horrible.
I'm just kidding. I love you, Bearded. I love you. All right, how about you, Mr. Donnie? What do you got going on? I know you got something good going on tomorrow night, probably, right?
So, tomorrow night I have I don't want to call it a special episode of Cover to Cover. It's not actually an episode of that at all, but it's I want top 3 albums of your favorite albums. I know a couple people have reached out to be on. Others have reached out that can't be on and sent me their lists. I've gotten a lot of awesome answers. So I'm hoping it's going to be a good show. Beyond that, I don't really have anything. I'm going to take another break.
Undertow, People's Instinctive Travels Along the Paths of Rhythm, and People of the Sun. No, that's what's that Rage Against the Machine album?
That's just Rage Against the Machine. Well, you're talking about Evil Empire.
Evil Empire.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was trying to remember them.
It'll probably change tomorrow, but that's awesome. Music and comics for me go hand in hand. So that's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. That's my thought.
Music is life.
How about you, Mr. Dale? Are we gonna see Sven anytime soon?
Another Sven video. Yeah, I keep getting that request. Honestly, I was afraid to bring Sven out because people like Sven better than me, and it's just me, right? But it's like, geez,
it's just you. The next thing you're gonna tell me is no sense.
It's not really a twin. No, there is for sure. Don't even mess. Yeah. No, I think I might do another how-to video, make like windowed beds or something. Those things seem to take off pretty well, good views and such. Another what's in the store folio video, maybe. There's stuff in my storefolio that I haven't taken out yet, so it's a surprise. Like, caps, CGC boxes.
How long's it been in there?
A couple weeks. Yeah. I take it with me to my LCS, and then I just throw it in there. And recently, Mark from Legion of Comics hooked me on this online free reader of comic books. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I don't have to put fingerprints on my books.
Listen, that guy is a salesman. He's cost me many a dollar too. So you gotta build up a resistance to that guy. So.
Yeah, all you guys.
Well, I don't try to sell anybody anything. If anybody's looking for this, it's a nice copy. It's first Kamala Khan, upcoming Disney Plus series. Shoot me a DM. Oh, I'm sorry. I said I wasn't selling anything. Sorry. I want to thank you guys so much for joining. It was awesome to talk to you. I love all your stuff, and I thought you guys would be just like me. And it turns out, in many levels, you are. In many levels, you're a lot better. So thank you for joining. Appreciate it. I appreciate everybody in the chat. Thank you for showing up, watching my ugly face and these handsome gentlemen. And I guess we'll just say goodbye at that. Thanks for joining. Go check out DJ Links. He's on now in the mix with Jimmy the Don. Have a good one, everybody.
Take it easy.
Take it easy. Bye.
Later.